Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about John Dryden. Come, let's go. Dryden wrote no formal treatise. So he had written no formal treatise except an essay of dramatic poesy. So he had written only one formal treatise titled an essay on essay of dramatic poesy. So this manner of critical writing he learnt from French writers. So notably Montaigne and Cornell. So whenever he gives reply to his preface, he had an attack. So this made his works to be unsystematic and disorganized sometimes, inconsistent and repetitive and sometimes even interested. So of course, important prefaces two were written before an essay of dramatic poesy was written. So the epistle dedicatory of the rival ladies, advocating of the use of the heroic couplet for dramatic purpose. And next one is dedication to Annus Mirabilis, preferring the use of four-line stanza with alternate use of rhyme to the heroic couplet for heroic verse. He also adopted his own tradition in his writing. So he had adopted his own tradition because he had some unique kind of tradition. Then John Dryden, he says that he had given a definition of poetry. In that definition, he followed Aristotle, that it is a process of imitation. He says that poetry says about both about past and present. So he says about both past and present. He also emphasized the other two forms of imitation that are mentioned in Aristotle's definition. In the grounds of criticism, adverting to the liberty allowed to the poets which they can imitate the things as they are or thought to be. The poet pleases the readers with the imitation. He says either the poetry or painting are the art which is not only the true nature but the best nature. He says that one has pleasure to see all the scattered beauties of nature which is united by a happy chemistry without deformities or faults. John Dryden says that whatever was written, it should be intended to the readers or audience. Plato says that the poem should instruct. Aristotle says the poem should delight to the should give some kind of delight to the readers. Horace says that it should do both, that is to delight and also to instruct. Longinus says it should transport the readers. It should transport them to sublime level. But John Dryden, in his opinion, he says that the final end of poetry is to delight and transport rather than instruct. Okay, so the final end of poetry is to delight and transport rather than instruct, because the poet will imitate his ideas from the nature, so it should not to instruct. So he will express his own ideas from the nature, so it should not be in an instructing way. Delight is the chief, if not only at the end of the poetry, instruct is also admitted, but it is considered as an second one, it is not a predominant one. So for poesy only instruct as it delight. According to John Dryden, the poet is neither a teacher nor an imitator, but a creator who can produce a new thing altogether. Coleridge calls poem as shaping spirit of imagination. He says it is fancy which gives the life touches. So it is fancy which gives the life touches. Dryden mainly concern on the preface of Troilus and the Chryseidae. He called in the grounds of criticism in tragedy. So he composed it with an epic. So in his definition of tragedy, as Aristotle said, imitation of one entire and probable action. So the entire and probable action was not told but represented, because only in the epic the scenes and the incidents were told, but in the tragedy, since it is a drama, all the actions were represented but not told. He also inspired by the French critic Rapin and not Aristotle in his interpretation on pity and fear. So French critic Rapin's interpretation is different. Okay, so John Dryden adopted the definition given by the French critic Rapin. The pride and want of commiseration are the most predominant vices of mankind. So man has some kind of prideness inside him, so it is one of the greatest vices of mankind. Aristotle drew his models from Sophocles and Euripides. So he drew his models for his writings from Sophocles and Euripides. Dryden followed Aristotle and Horace, tragic hero and other characters in tragedy. So the speech of tragedy should be the style of one individual according to their age, sex, and their capacity. Okay, so the speech of the tragedy. So a person with an age of 12 had given the dialogue of a person with the age of 40. So how it will be? It won't be nice, right? It will create some kind of artificiality. So according to the age, according to the according to their sex, because if a dialogue is uttered by male, there are some dialogues that should be uttered only by male, and there are some dialogues which should be uttered only by female. Okay, only then it will be of natural. Okay, or otherwise it will create some kind of artificiality. So according to that according to that situation, the speech of tragedy should be there. And then the Greek tragedy chorus, it's an unprofitable encumbrance of English. It is an unprofitable one for an English tragedy. So it will not it will not be useful to gain. It will not help to gain any kind of profitness. Okay, profit. So Fletcher wrote the age of genius in which they lived. Okay, so Fletcher wrote in the age of the genius in which they lived. So the nature and reason, so they often remain same, and the age, climate, rank and disposition of people to whom the poets write become differ. So for the Greek it is not satisfied. So if a work written by a Greek writer was read by an English reader, will it give satisfaction to the English audience or English reader? No. So because the Greek writer wrote his writing based, or he considered only his country people, so it won't satisfy the readers of another country. Okay, and then Dryden's preference is three unities, okay, as equal, that is unity of action, unity of time and unity of place. Then he gave an opinion regarding ancients, so they did not at all follow the unity. Okay, and then he considered English drama as an inferior one, and he considered French as superior. So he has some kind of consideration or some kind of favor towards French, I hope so. So Neander subject follow classical rules. So Neander subject will follow only classical rules. Then drama reveals all. So everything will be revealed through drama. In English drama, both tragedy and comedy will get mingled. Okay, so tragedy and comedy will get mingled. So Dryden followed only French, because in the previous point itself we can say that Dryden considered English drama as inferior and considered French drama as superior. So since he considered English drama as inferior and French drama as superior, he followed only French. And then tragedy, for mandatory to follow three unities. So it was mandatory for tragedy to follow three unities. What are the unities? Unity of action, unity of time and unity of place. So it was mandatory. But though it was mandatory for tragedy, English drama doesn't follow three unities. Okay, so they don't follow these three unities. So all countries they have their own likes and dislikes. So based on their likes and dislikes, the writing of that writer will differ. Okay, so he questioned how they can enact within 24 hours. So the unity of time should be modified. So there should not be restriction in time, place. So the author, if an author is given some kind of restrictions, so we couldn't find any kind of the continuation, because he will have it in his mind that he should want to compile all the incidents in the same situation, and he has to complete within a single day, and there should be some kind of coherence in the actions. So only these three things things will be in the mind of the writers. So if he has that kind of thinking in the writing, then the writing will not be in a satisfied one. So the writer should have restrictions only on his own, that there should not be any compulsion for his writing. Okay, this is the point which he argues. Okay, with this we have come to an end for the topic, or the discussion on John Dryden. I hope you're all clear with this. Okay, thank you.